ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिके। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Part 4. If you are using the small Srimad Bhagavatam set. And we are starting with Chapter 25, the characteristics of King Puranjan. So, it's an amazing allegorical story that we are going to go through. Okay. So before that, yesterday's discussion, anything remaining? Otherwise, we are just beginning with the new book now. Yeah, so I think we are good to go. So what we have seen till now is the Vamshavali of Dhruva Maharaj, who is the son of Uttanapad, who is the son of Swayambhuva Manu. So we are in the same lineage of the Swayambhuva Manu in continuation, right? In a way, Bhagavatam glorifies Swayambhuva Manu in an unprecedented way. We are going to see Uttanapad and then Priyavrat. The stories of Maharaj Priyavrat are yet to come. Uttanapad Vamshavali we have seen, and then down the line we have seen how Dhruva, then the accident in the Maharaj Vena, Anga, and then accident in the family of Maharaj Dhruva Maharaj's dynasty. And then what we have seen is there is Vena coming, and then Prithu Maharaj, then the sons of Prithu Vamshi we have seen, up till Prachina Barhi. And now Prachina Barhi is a Prachina Barhi, is a very, very old personality, very obedient, very nice person, but uninformed about the real spiritual truths, right? And this Prachina Barhi is always engaged in different austerities and tapasya. And his sons, he has duly, very religiously, he has asked them to go to the forest and perform tapasya. And when they are on the way to the forest, what has happened is they come across this great personality, the greatest personality, Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva instructs them to do Rudra Gita. And now they have gone to do their austerity. Now, all this thing is happening. Narad Munishi, he is not quiet. He is onto something. He is doing something. And what he is doing, that we are going to see in this particular chapter. So, this is how we come to chapter 25. Okay. Description of the characteristics of King Puranjan. And this is a mind blowing story. Okay. Very beautiful story. Next one. Maitreya Uvacha iti sandishya Bhagavan बाहिरर्षैरभिपूजितः पश्चैतां राजपुत्राणां तत्रैवान् अन्तर्ददे हरः. Translation.
The great sage Maitreya continued speaking to Vidur. My dear Vidur, in this way Lord Shiva instructed the sons of King Parishad. The sons of the king also worshipped Lord Shiva with great devotion and respect. Finally, Lord Shiva became invisible to the princess. Purport. This chapter contains a great lesson concerning the monarchical kingdom in the days of yore. When King Barishit was considering retiring from the royal duties, he sent his sons to perform austerities in order to become perfect kings for the welfare of the citizens. At the same time, King Barishit was being instructed by the great sage Narada about the material world and the living entity who wants to enjoy it. It is therefore very clear how the kings and princes were trained to take charge of a kingdom. Welfare activities for the benefit of the citizens were aimed at understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The human form of life is especially meant for understanding God, our relationship with Him, and our activities in His service. Because the kings took charge of the spiritual education of the citizens, both the king and the citizens were happy in Krishna consciousness. In this regard, we should remember that the monarchical hierarchy of Prachina Bharishat comes from Maharaj Dhruva, a great devotee of the Lord and the most celebrated disciple of Narada Muni. King Prachina Bharishat was then too much engaged in fruitive activities due to performing different types of yagyas. One can actually be promoted to a higher planetary systems or to the heavenly kingdoms by performing various yagyas. But there is no question of liberation or going back home, back to Godhead. When the great sage Narada saw that a descendant of Maharaj Dhruva was being misled by fruitive activities, Narada took compassion upon him and personally came to instruct him about the ultimate benediction of life, that is Bhakti Yoga. How Narada Muni indirectly introduced the Bhakti Yoga system to King Parachina Bharishat is very interestingly described in this 25th chapter. Hare Krishna.
So here, Parishad, that the Prachetas, they worship Lord Shiva with great devotion and respect, and this is very important, right? Offending demigods is considered one of the grave aparath in bhakti. So let us not go by those very trendy YouTube. You see, I mean, one thing is YouTube is often to catch the attention in is less to give a knowledge. So sometimes people will give some, and to catch the attention you have a negative title or some controversial title is very always it will catch the attention. So, but the devotees of the Lord, devotees, they worship Lord Shiva with great respect and devotion, understanding he is the Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambho. And finally, Lord Shiva, Antardade Haraha. Haraha is Lord Shiva. Look at the word Haraha. Antardade, he became invisible to all of them. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that in the monarchical system, which was there in the past, the Rajaputras were perfectly trained. It is not that the kingdom was just handed over because somebody is born to the king. No. Somebody is born to the king with a purpose on particular samskara called Garbhodak, Garbha samskara. And the perfect kings gave birth to a perfect Rajaputra, and the system continued. And Rajaputra also took a great learning in the Gurukul. They proved themselves, and this is how the welfare activities for the benefit of the citizens were continued. So there is importance of tapasya in the human form of life. The human form and in animal form, they are almost same. Ahar, nidra, bhaya, ityadi. This goes on in both the forms. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko visheshu. The dharma is to realize what is our relationship with God, understanding our and how to offer our activities in the service of the God. Tapo divyam putraka yena sattva. Prachina Bari very rightly wanted his sons to be instructed accordingly, but somehow he himself was always engaged in suboptimal activities of Upadharma, doing this yagya and that yagya. And when Narada Muni, when he saw the descendant of great personality, Dhruva Maharaj, is engaged like this, he took compassion, right? He took compassion on him and he instructed him the story of King Puranjan in a very, very interesting way. So Prabhupada describes that this chapter 25th is all about the story of King Puranjan. Text 2. रुद्रगीतं भगवतः स्तोत्रं सर्वे प्रचेतसः जपन्तस्ते जपन्तस्ते तपस्ते वर्षाणाम् अयुतं जले. Translation.
Translation: all the Pracheta princes simply stood in the water for 10,000 years and recited the prayers given to them by Lord Shiva. Purport: of course, in the modern age, one may be amazed how the princes could stand in the water for 10,000 years. However, living within air or living within water is the same process. One simply has to learn how to do it. The aquatics live within water for their whole lifespan. Certain favorable conditions are created to enable them to live within water. In those days, however, people used to live for one people used to live for 100,000 years. Out of so many years, if one could spare 10,000 years for the sake of austerity, he would be assured of success in his future life. This was not very astonishing. Although such a feat is impossible in this age, it was quite possible in Satyuga. Hare Krishna.
Rudragitam Bhagavata Stotram. So Bhagavata Stotram, prayers towards the Supreme Lord given by Lord Shiva himself, Rudragitam. Sarve Prachetasah, all the Prachetas, Japantaste, they began to chant this stotra along with performing tapasya of standing inside the water, Ayutam Jale. Right. So Ayutam means 10,000 Varshanam is years, right? Ayutam, 10,000 years. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that modern times it may appear very fantastic that how somebody is and very mythological that somebody is standing in the water for 10,000 years. If we dip our feet in the water for 5 hours, it just becomes so slippery, the skin will become slackened, and so on and so forth. But here, this is then a different art. Prabhupada says, just like if we live in the air, and if you take a fish and tell him that there are people who are living 110 years in the air, he will die because he cannot live more than 3 minutes in the air, right? Similarly, we cannot live more than 4 or 5 minutes in the water. The exact number our Maharaj says, who Maharaj? Who was a Navy SEAL? I just missed the name. He says this 4.34. Okay, very amazing verse also. This is Bhagavad Gita 4.34. What is this verse? Bijit 4.34. So this is the time. 4 minutes 34 seconds is max the human being can stay in water. Right. 4.34. But in the past, people used to live for 1 lakh years, Satya Yuga we are talking about. And it is not at all astonishing that Pracheta is performing the austerity for 10,000 years standing inside the water. Text 3. Prachina varesham kshattah karmakasakta anasan manasam narado dhyamnato tatvajnah krupaluhu pratyab abodayat. Translation.
While the princes were undergoing severe austerities in the water, their father was performing different types of fruitive activities. At this time, the great Saint Narada, master and teacher of all spiritual life, became very compassionate upon the king and decided to instruct him about spiritual life. Purport: as pointed out by Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, Kaivalya, or merging into the Brahman effulgence is just like going to hell. He similarly states that elevation to the upper planetary systems for the enjoyment of heavenly life is just so much phantasmagoria. This means that a devotee does not give any importance to the ultimate goal of the karmis and gyanis. The ultimate goal of the karmis is promotion to the heavenly kingdom, and the ultimate goal of the gyanis is merging into the Brahman effulgence. Of course, the gyanis are superior to the karmis, as confirmed by Lord Chaitanya. कोटि कर्मानिष्ठ मध्ये एक ज्ञानी श्रेष्ठ. One jnani or impersonalist is better than many thousands of fruitive actors. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19.147. Therefore, a devotee never enters upon the path of karma or elevation by fruitive activities. Narad Muni took compassion upon King Prachina Bharishad when he saw the king engaged in fruitive activity. In comparison to mundane workers, those who are trying to be elevated to the higher planetary systems by performing yajnas are undoubtedly superior. In pure devotional service, however, both karma and jnana are considered bewildering features of the illusory energy.
Prachina Barisham Kshatta. Kshatta Vidura. Oh, this is Vidura Maitreya Samvad still going on. Amazing, that discussion. Kshatta, oh Vidura. When the the Prachetas were undergoing the different types of tapasya, the great austerities in the water, the father Prachina Barhi was performing different fruitive activities. And as Narada Adhyatma Tatvatah, Narada, the great personality, who is Adhyatma Tatvatah, master and teacher of all spiritual knowledge. This is Narada, right? Very amazing. Krupalu Pratyabodhaya. He became very Krupalu, compassionate, and Pratyabodhaya. He began to instruct Prachina Barihishat in this way. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Kaivalyam Narakayate, that elevation, that Kaivalya is going to hell, then what to speak of going to the Svarga Loka for the devotees. But these are great achievements for Karmis and Gyanis. Karmis want to go to Svarga. Our dear Elon Musk going to Mars is nothing, it is just the same thing that people want to go to Svarga for better enjoyment. Current context is for better minerals. I mean, that's what the whole world is stuck with, rare minerals. So the Karmis want to go to the heavenly planets, and the Gyanis, they want to merge in the Brahman. So both of them, Jnani is considered to be superior than Karmi. Srila Prabhupada quotes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Koti karma nishtha madhye eka jnani sreshta. That amongst the crores of karmis, one jnani is better, but one bhakta is far better than crores of jnanis. Prashantasya Mahamuni. Right. In pure devotional service, we do not aspire for karma or jnana. Although we are very well engaged in our varnashram activities, we study very well. See, sometimes when we say that, we are not jnani, doesn't means that devotee is a jnani. In fact, the kind of literature that we have, the kind of study that devotees do is phenomenal, right? One of the greatest scholar of the contemporary times of last 500 years is Srila Jiva Goswami. And he is a great devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, direct disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is, the nephew of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, the greatest scholar, Jiva. Okay, so we are not karmi doesn't mean that we don't work hard. We work extremely hard. We are not jnani doesn't mean we don't study. Our jnana is Bhagavad Jnana, but we don't have aspirations of Swarga Punarbhavam, right? Na Swargam na Punarbhavam, which was explained in the previous chapters. Text 4. Shreyastvam Katamadrajan Karmanatmana Isase Dukkhani Sukhat Papti Shreyatastanniha Cheshyate. Translation.
Narada Muni asked King Prachina Barhishat, "My dear king, what do you desire to achieve by performing these fruitive activities? The chief aim of life is to get rid of all miseries and enjoy happiness. But these two things cannot be realized by fruitive activity. Purport. In this material world, there is a great illusion which covers real intelligence. A man in the mode of passion wants to work very hard to derive some benefit, but he does not know that time will never allow him to enjoy anything permanently. Compared with the work one expends, the gain is not so profitable. Even if it is profitable, it is not without its distresses. If a man is not born rich and he wants to purchase a house, cars, and other material things, he has to work hard day and night for many years in order to possess them. Thus, happiness is not attained without undergoing some distress. Actually, pure happiness cannot be had within this material world. If we wish to enjoy something, we must suffer for something else. On the whole, suffering is the nature of this material world, and whatever enjoyment we are trying to achieve is simply illusion. After all, we have to suffer. We have to suffer the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. We may discover many fine medicines, but it is not possible to stop the sufferings sufferings of disease or death. Actually, medicine is not the counteracting agent for either disease or death. On the whole, there is no happiness in this material world, but an illusion person works very hard for so-called happiness. Indeed, this process of working hard is actually taken for happiness. This is called illusion.
Yeah.
Therefore, Narada
So
Muni,
we'll go in a section. Very deep purport. Narad Muni asked King Prachina Parishad, "My dear king, what do you desire to achieve by performing these fruitive activities?" Dukkhani sukham avapnoti. That the chief aim is to get rid of all the miseries and enjoy happiness. But these two things cannot be realized by fruitive activity. Now, this may be a small statement, but speaking this to Prachina Barhi, who has dedicated his life, right, to yajna only. Throughout his life, he has done yajna, one yajna after another. His own life is being expended through this. The valuable human energy, time, resources, money, dhanam, everything is put in yajna. Narad Muni is describing him that these two things cannot be realized by fruitive activity. And now Srila Prabhupada writes a very strong purport. And one has to realize, what one has to realize is this entire Upakhyan, which is called as Puranjan Upakhyan in Srimad Bhagavatam, is spoken by Narada Muni to aid Prachina Barhi to retire him. Right? Generally, what mistake happens is this Upakhyan you cannot just take and speak to some young boys when they are about to begin their career. The context is very important. What is spoken? Who is speaking to whom with what purpose? Not that we just jump on a purport, pick up a line and abuse the by drawing some awkward conclusions. Right. So with this in mind, the context is Narad Muni wants Prachina Barhi to be retired now and to be engaged in devotional service. And Narad Muni is very successful preacher. Prachina Barhi does that. Okay. In the purport, now with this in mind, we have to read the purport. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the material world is a great illusion which covers the real intelligence. Right? Man in the mode of passion wants to work very hard and derive some benefit, but he does not know that after working extremely hard, one will get some benefit, but those benefits also will come when one passes the decades of hard work. Prabhupada gives a simple example of simply constructing a house or buying a car. The EMIs that we pay go on for more than 20-25 years. Nowadays, house EMI is also allowed for 30 years. 30 years, somebody starts working at 25, and 30 years down the line, he pays EMI just to make the house on his name instead of the bank's name. That goes to 50-55. So, material happiness demands hard work. And that hard work, Narad Muni is explaining to Prachina Barhi, the fruits of the hard work will come at the extended age, at the grown up age, where your ability to enjoy is also diminished. Right. So Prabhupada says, unless one is born very rich, it is very difficult even to grow. And that's what we can see. I mean, talk the India statistics. India statistics is 90% of the India earns less than 150 rupees a day. Okay, and I'm telling you, just taking some margin of safety in quoting this number. Okay, so let's talk US statistics. US statistics is 65% of the Americans, they struggle extremely hard in their old age because all that 401 and the social security is by far the way less uh, compared to what their expenses are. Very commonly, you will see people at the age of 60, 65, 70 working in the malls, cashier, this or that, all those things that you see on the reels, they are very true. So, what point here is what Narada Muni is describing that the material happiness demands great endeavors, and one has to do those endeavors in one is age appropriate. but not that the goal of the life is not simply keep on doing those endeavors. That is what Narad Muni is addressing here. And then, although person is working to avoid dukkha hani, and to make the sukha to be prapta, sukham apnoti, he misunderstands what the dukkha is. And therefore, Bhagavad Gita very beautifully explains what Bhagavad Gita explains. What is the real dukkha? The real dukkha is janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. The sign of intelligence is to see the real four things as dukkha: janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. So this is to be dukkha hani. One has to do the hani. And what is the real sukha? Nate gati swartha gatim hi Vishnu. Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. The real sukha is, the worship of Lord Vishnu. That is the real swartha. So although people want to get rid of the dukkha and want to obtain sukha, they misidentify dukkha and they misidentify sukha, and therefore entire lifetime of endeavor is just misplaced. And this is how Narad Muni is explaining to Prachina Barhisha. Yeah, please continue.
Therefore, Narad Muni asking Prachin Barishad what he desired to attain by performing so many costly sacrifices. Even if one attains a heavenly planet, he cannot avoid the distresses of birth, old age, disease, and death. Someone may argue that even devotees have to undergo many distresses in executing austerities and penances connected with devotional service. Of course, for the neophyte, the routine of devotional service may be very painful, but at least they have the hope that they will ultimately be able to avoid all kinds of distresses and achieve the highest operational stage of happiness. For the common karmis, there is no such hope, because even if they are promoted to the higher planetary systems, they are not guaranteed freedom from the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. Even Lord Brahma, who is situated in the highest planetary systems, Brahmaloka, has to die. Lord Brahma's birth and death may be different from an ordinary man's, but within this material world, he cannot avoid the distresses of birth, old age, disease, and death. If one is at all serious about attaining liberation from these miseries, he must take to devotional service. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vyatti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mamiti suarjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Thus, after attaining full Krishna consciousness, the devotee does not return to this material world after death. He goes back home, back to Godhead. That is the perfect stage of happiness, unblemished by any trace of distress.
Now, further, Srila Prabhupada explains what these four dukkha are: Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, right? And one cannot avoid this by simply performing yajna, accumulating pious credits, and going to the heavenly planets. A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. That all these places are filled with the same amount of misery. Now, how much person works hard, if you want to see, and with great respect, we are speaking. There is a satire, but there is no dismeaning or something like that. Just look at Elon Musk. Extreme level of hard work, right? On one hand, I'm inspired also by him, the way he works hard. But the point is, just to reach Mars, extreme level of hard work, right? But all these places are misery. End of the day, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. And when the IPO will come for $1.5 trillion, the trillions of dollars will go to, don't want to say where they will go to, but this is how, the people who have earned money, it will be evaporated. So the solution is simple. What is the solution? The solution is performing devotional service. Srila Prabhupada quotes, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. That, my dear Arjuna, engage in devotional service. Simply become a devotee. After attaining full Krishna consciousness, devotee does not return to this material world, but attains everlasting happiness, that is looking for sukham, and complete eradication of misery, that is obtaining Vaikuntha. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Yeah.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you,
Yeah.
Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone. Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Prabhuji. Thank you very
Thank you,
much. Hare
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dada Pranam.